Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today we're finishing off our top 50 animated film series that we've been doing. It's been so much fun. I'm kind of sad to see it conclude, but it's been a blast. And today we're talking about our grab bags, the ones that didn't fit our other lists. And it's going to be super fun. I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Matt Brunet's is here.
Hey everybody! Well, this is the grand finale of all this, where
Yes.
basically we're just doing everything else that technically is in our top 50, but we didn't list in our list, whether it be like the Disney ones or the
Yes.
2D, 3D, or stop motion ones. So, like in a way, it's like well, I wouldn't official honorable mentions. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a crap bag. It's just a chance to talk about everything. It's really fun because we decided to kind of categorize things, and that was a fun approach. And I'll put a link to my actual top 50 on Letterboxd if people want to check that out. And maybe I'll do a whole video where I just do that just by myself. But either way, it's been really fun. And so you had 10 on your list. I had 14. So I'm just going to go quick these four and then you can, comment on any of the four after. But
Okay.
my 11 through 14, I have The Triplets of Belleville at 14. Love that. The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which is so much fun. It's crazy bonkers. Number 12 is where I have An American Tail, which is very nostalgic for me, and I love that movie. And then number 11, I have Tokyo Godfathers, which is another Christmas. There's actually a surprising number of Christmas movies. Well, I mean, not surprising for me, but you don't think animation and Christmas movies necessarily, at least I don't, and I should because there's all those specials and everything. But anyway,
Well, yeah,
but Tokyo Godfathers, another Christmas movie. It's so sweet, it's so funny, it's such good characters, wonderful. And so that is my 11 through 14.
yeah. I will say though that generally when it comes to animation and the holidays, especially Christmas, you would normally think about like you mentioned before, like you would think television specials, rather it
Yeah,
be with Charlie Brown or especially with Rankin-Bass. But
right.
there
Yeah,
are times when animated movies would get into the realm of Christmas, and
yeah,
like we have seen in our list that they can really work out well, whether it be The Nightmare Before Christmas or
yeah,
Arthur Christmas.
yeah.
Like if you know what you're doing with Christmas, with something related
Claws,
to Christmas, yeah,
yeah.
or that, yeah, Klaus as well.
There's
Like
so many.
then you can make something magical, or
Yeah.
even it's funny enough, since you did mention An American Tail, Hanukkah can also be
Oh yeah,
included. Like it's a lot
it's
more
true.
rare that you could find. And technically, like I did do my research, and An American Tail is actually the first ever representation in animation of Hanukkah.
Yeah,
And even though like that's not the main theme of it, with An American Tail, it's still a very lovely picture.
yeah,
It's still very nice and a lot of fun, and it's fascinating to see how it was like this major collaboration between a couple of giants from the industry. Like you got Don
yeah,
Bluth, whom he was like a major rebel against Disney, like one like stood himself up to actually become like a legitimate competitor, because back in the day Disney was in a very rough shape. And you also got Steven Spielberg, who entered
yeah.
into the scene, and he decided to, like, he was in a little phase of being into animation and decided to collaborate with Don Bluth to enter into that realm.
Hmm. Yeah, and and the songs, so many great songs. The James Horner. Oh, I love There Are No Cats in America.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah,
classic moments.
so
It's
many
a
good.
very
Yeah,
cute picture.
I love it. Have you seen The Night is Short, Walk On Girl?
No, I haven't, honestly. I
It's
know it's one
wild.
of those that I should. But with Triple to Belleville, I won't say much, but I will say I am planning on watching it soon.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious for your thoughts.
Mhm.
It's really just creative and fun and yeah, I like it.
No,
It's really good.
I've always been interested in watching it, especially
Yeah.
I've been fascinated with the works of Sylvain Chomet. Illusionist was a very solid picture. So I can't wait to jump into that and see
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
what all the hype is about.
definitely. All right. Well, what do you have at 10?
Well, for me, like you could go in or I'll just go into mine.
Oh, right, right,
But
right.
yeah, but I'm actually gonna go and randomize honestly because I know that we got similarities that will go and match up. But you know what? I'm gonna go and start things off with something interesting with South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut. Now, this was back during the beginnings of South Park. This was still like when it was fresh, when it was brand new, and was like one of the hot new shows that you would find on television and really propelled the success of adult animation from here on out. But with South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut, not only does it take the elements of what people enjoy from the South Park show and just bring it onto the big screen, but it does so in a way that's just a lot of fun, very satirical as well, and just very and like you got a lot of great moments. And honestly, one of the like I would even say one of the best non-Disney animated musicals out there. Like the musical numbers they are absolutely fantastic, and they don't hold back to go really big. In fact, this was actually Oscar nominated for the song "Blame Canada." And you see that big matchup that they would have against like the American parents versus all the Canadians because of like how they feel in regards to Terrence and Philip. But there's also two characters that I gotta say is just absolutely hilarious. I think they're great, and I would even dare say underrated. And it's honestly the weirdest one to ever mention: Satan and Saddam Hussein, where you see their relationship that they have with one another. That, like, in a way, Satan is actually more the victim, that he's in a bit of an abusive relationship with Saddam Hussein. But it's just a lot of fun. Like, it doesn't take it, like, again, it doesn't take itself seriously. It's it's ridiculous at times, but it's also very clever, very enjoyable, and the quality, when they know what they're doing, when they want to stick the landing, they do so
Mm-hmm.
very well.
Yeah. Yeah, I finally watched this for the first time. It wasn't last year, the year before. I did a every year for the Oscars, I do a Did the Right One Win? And so
Ah,
and I have all the way back to the original first year for the animated film. And so I did a couple of years even previous. So like if there was an animated Oscar, what I think would have
right.
won, and or should have won. Anyway, so I did 1999. I got back to that far, and so I had to watch South Park, and yeah, it is pretty bold. Like you think about it, in 1999 to making that, like you're like, wow, yeah, they were pretty. They held no prisoners. They let it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially at that time, it was rare to see and like any form of animated content to really go and push the envelope. And
yeah,
South Park is just one of those shows that like they really went out there and they
yeah,
just had no boundaries whatsoever and very unapologetic in terms of actually pushing the envelope. So seeing
yeah.
them do so with an animated feature, like really breaking the mold, especially in an era when Disney was really dominating the scene, so, like it was very much something that people were not expecting. Like it was very much almost a one of its kind movie when it came out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my number 10 is totally different than yours. We're talking about Persepolis is my number 10. Wonderful film about this girl, Marjane, in the 1970s, going through the Iranian Revolution and the rise of the Shah, and how that affects her and her life and her family. And she ends up going to Germany at a certain point for school, and she's very rebellious. And I love the look of this movie. I love how it really feels like you're watching a graphic novel on screen. It's really beautiful, the black and white, and just for somebody like the sullen, miserable teenager is one of my least favorite archetypes in movies. I just hate it. But like here you have a pretty sullen, miserable teenager, but like there's some humanity to her, which sometimes is lost in these movies. And there's sort of enough of a wider perspective being shown. I don't know. I just think it's a very like honest and still entertaining, like seeing her discover like Michael Jackson and just different things like that is very entertaining. It's a good film.
I will say that you say that it's very much the opposite of what we would get with South Park, bigger and longer and uncut, but I would kind of disagree because Persepolis is another film that is actually very bold, especially
Yeah, that's
coming
true.
coming from the perspective of the main character who, because of her rebellious nature, just doesn't hold back in
Yeah,
terms of her feelings and the life around her. And yeah, like it does go a little bit into the trope of like that miserable teenage girl, but it does a great job in terms of presenting why she actually feels that
yeah,
way and really shows her life, that everything that she would have to go through, especially with her life in Iran and moving forward, trying to accumulate more freedom for herself. So it does a
yeah,
good job to explain not just how like the life she went through, but the life that is around her. And even with the animation, like considering that this is actually based on a graphic novel, is I think it's actually a very a strong move and actually one that worked out very very well to basically take the pages from the graphic novel and just bring them to life to capture that same feeling that people got when they read that, and then just adapt that into animation, like to bring those visuals to life. And it does result in a very nice looking picture and a great example of modern 2D animation, like not just the typical Disney style that people would normally think of, but also like to really be creative with the overall look. So
yeah,
yeah, another one that is a solid picture and a great example of international animation.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
So what do you have next?
Next one. Well, I might as well go and get this one out of the way because we've recently just talked about it. I actually do have A Town Called Panic on my list.
Yes.
Just to go and quickly summarize what we've previously talked about, A Town Called Panic is just a movie that is absolutely absurd. It's one of those features that it does not take itself seriously whatsoever, but it's also self-aware of its own absurdity and decided to go completely crazy with it. And it's the type of feature where you really have to expect the unexpected. It almost has that similar Homestar Runner or even Muppet style humor
Yeah.
where like everything is just wacky. You never know like where they're gonna go, where they will go and find themselves next. It's like just go with the flow with the absolute insanity that
Yeah.
that has in store, while at the same time they do offer some heart. Like you do learn about the personalities of, rather it would be with cowboy, Indian, or with horse, and
Yeah.
their situations that they try to get into, and it really is a lot of fun. It's almost like it almost shares the same kind of parallels as something like the Lego movie, where the storytelling feels like it's from kids playing with toys and just thinking up of like these random crazy scenarios, working with the materials that they would go have, especially when, well, technically with these characters, with the animation, it's like, I guess you could say, limited stop motion, because it's literally just moving around little figures one after another, and even that adds into the comedy as well. Like especially when you see horse like just like a very static figure of a horse trying to do a whole bunch of things. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very silly, but so much fun. I really yeah, I really love, like I said, every time the horse gets that phone call from the from his girlfriend. That is to me just one of the funniest things I've ever seen. That was
Yeah, like he's
absolutely
in a
hilarious.
cave, he's underwater,
He's
he'll get a
underwater.
call.
Yeah, if people haven't seen it, you really should check it out. It's very funny. But
Or I would recommend get the Blu-ray, because the G
oh
Kids Blu-ray they release, you literally get everything. Like not just the movie, you get the specials, you even get all the episodes from the show.
oh really? That's cool. I didn't know
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, my next one is I'm usually not that big of a sci-fi fan, but this movie did win me over. It's Akira. This movie is bonkers and crazy. The story is kind of a mess, but you don't really care because it's all about the tone and vibe and feel and experience of watching it. I was very, very fortunate that I got to see this at on the big screen at a summer movie festival thing that they used to do here in Salt Lake, and that was an amazing experience to see on the big screen, just to be like encompassed by the sound, because the sound design is so incredible in this movie, and the music, and just it's just such like a visceral, raw feeling to the movie, and it's just like nothing else. Like sometimes you do live for unique experiences, and there's certainly been movies that have aped this and copied parts of it and paid homage to it and all that, but I just never seen anything quite like Akira. It is just really original.
Yeah, safe to say that Akira is an animated feature that many people want to go and recreate. I mean, there's a reason
Yeah.
why you see so many homages or references to Akira, especially the motor, like the shot where like they stop the motorcycle on the side. Like how many
Oh.
animated projects like would go and try to recreate that? Like we've seen it a lot with like like with a lot of Genndy Tartakovsky's works. Like I know he's a fan of it.
Mm,
Like you see it with
yeah.
Adventure Time, with Steven Universe. Like a
Yeah.
lot of, well, come to think of it, a lot of it comes from Cartoon Network actually. But yeah, like with Akira, like a lot of people really do admire it, and you could tell this is the kind that many animation filmmakers, they wish they can make something like
Well, even Christopher
Akira.
Nolan, you see, well, you can see some of that influence on Christopher Nolan in
Mm-hmm.
movies like Inception and things like that. But yeah, there's some pretty scenes with the teddy bear and everything. There's some wacky scenes, but it all, I don't know, it all works as an experience, I think.
Oh, of course, because it's like the more you watch it, the more intense it becomes, and like the more you get invested to know it's like going on, what's going on, what's going on.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, what do you have next?
Well, next up, I'm gonna go. Well, we talked about an anime film. I'm gonna go with this anime movie, The Wind Rises.
Hmm.
Technically, it was Hayao Miyazaki's final film until he decided once again to unretire, and then we ended up getting Boy and the Heron. But with The Wind Rises, this one actually feels it's a little bit more different than what you would get from the typical Hayao Miyazaki movies, especially something that feels a little bit more subdued and not necessarily as fantastical. This is one of Hayao Miyazaki's more human animated films. Like, yes, you do get some fantasy scenes, especially with the when the main character meets up with that Italian plane creator, and you see them hanging out, chilling out, like discussing about his life and how things are going and stuff like that. But still, though, you get a lot of the same beauty that you would find in Hayao Miyazaki's films, especially with the backgrounds, the nature setting, especially the scenes with flight. I mean, Hayao Miyazaki has like a very strong interest when it comes to flying, and even with airplanes. This is also like very noticeable with a lot of the different movies, whether it be with the flying scenes with My Neighbor Totoro or with Spirited Away, or of course you would have Porco Rosso. But in here, though, we see a lot of the influence, like how passion can drive someone's life, and how it can go and bring some beauty, but also can bring out a little bit of despair, because the main character himself is a very controversial figure. Like it's like, I wouldn't say this is a biographical film, but it is based on a real person who did design the World War II airplanes. And considering that the guy's Japanese, of course, well, he made a lot of the airplanes for the bad guys. So from there, like, I understand all the controversies that did come with the feature, but again, it just shows that this is a movie that highlights a lot more about passion and how that can be a driving force in someone's life, and it just results in
Yeah.
this beautiful picture that looks more into the human soul than it is like establishing this massive world building. So I thought this
Well,
is
and it's a love
another.
story as well,
Mhm.
that can be quite lovely. It's a little boring for me, I'll be honest, but I do think it is beautifully animated, and it has interesting things to say, because it's not only that he wants to build airplanes, like that, or that he does build airplanes. That's like his big dream in life, and he has there's these fantasy sequences where he imagines this Italian airplane maker, and you
Well,
see,
like it's like it's his idol
yeah,
basically.
yeah, and he hopes to become that someday, and so there's this like bittersweet quality to everything that happens within the movie, because we all know what these planes are used for. And whether it's the good guys or the bad guys, it's still war, and war
Mhm.
is horrible. And so yeah, it's an interesting entry in the Miyazaki canon for sure. My next one is one of my Pixar films. Didn't couldn't make my cut. It's Coco is my next one. Love this film. Love the animation. Love the family story, and I think are drawn to stories about characters who decide to love something unlovable. I think that's interesting to me, because that takes a lot. It's easy to love people that love us back, right? It's harder
Yeah.
to love people that maybe aren't that nice. And like Miguel's family isn't that nice. Like, they're kind of mean to him. And I can understand why he would have a hard time like forgiving them, but like his sort of journey uh to coming to understand like the roots of his family and why they all are the way that they are, and the end when he is just trying to get his abuela to save Hector, and it's just, oh, it's so tense, and it's so well done. And I do think that Remember Me is one of the best songs that Disney has ever released. I absolutely love
Oh
that song.
wow.
I think it is beautiful. And you know, it's a gorgeous film. So the animation, the afterlife, and it's funny. I mean, the villain reveal, we've seen that now a billion times from Disney, the surprise villain. So whatever. But I think it's still a very satisfying film.
Yeah, honestly, I actually do have that on my list as well. So I'll also put in my piece.
Yeah.
Coco really is one of those features that I feel like even to this day really did push Pixar's technology. And I think like honestly, even in terms of animated films in general, like you've never seen this kind of technological advancement that like would really push it to its limit, to really go all out to create this massive world. And when you see Miguel entering into the land of the dead, it's like just entire landscape, this like almost like a whole universe where you see like everything. You see like this entire place just dedicated to this area that is for the land of the dead, and it has like its own type of people in there. So the world building is awe-inspiring of what they have done, especially mixing in a lot of elements that are based on Mexican folklore. Especially like when you see the different animals that when they get when they reach to their new form, like all completely multicolored, and even have some aspects that are based on mythological creatures that they would mix into it. So wonder. So yeah, really, the world building is just so awe inspiring, and animation in order to go and capture that is just fantastic. But also, with the theme of family, truly is the heart of this picture. And yeah, it's definitely one of Pixar's more emotional features, and it manages to really capture that very well. To go and define what it like what it means to be a part of a family, and like and also the importance of looking back into your family's legacy and trying to learn a bit more, especially when Miguel wants to really go down into like why is it that the family is very anti-music when funny enough they're a town that very much loves music, especially with Ernesto de la Cruz. And I would actually argue with Ernesto de la Cruz that he's honestly one of the better twist villains out there. Like I know, like Disney, like Disney has already like done so much, and like it's down to the point that it overrated its welcome. But then again, I wouldn't 100% blame Disney, because like there have been a lot of other studios even recently that, oh boy, they've done their share of plot twists, and it's like nah, it's been like they
Yeah.
don't work out, and some have even done like much worse than Disney, honestly.
Mm.
But
It's
Ernesto
just
de la Cruz,
it's
though.
getting tired. Anything that you do it too
Mm-hmm.
much, even the generational trauma, which of course Coco has, it's just like, okay, we just you when you do it too much, then it becomes tired. Like even if it's done well, like you need to. That's why I thought when I saw Encanto recently, again, I saw it on. I went to the concert experience, and I was just thinking to
Mm-hmm.
myself, I'm like, that's it. They did it. They did the generational trauma. This is it. This is as good as you can do this story. This is it.
Yeah.
They that anything else is just gilding the lily. Like you did it. Congrats. Like let's move
Yeah.
on.
Okay, I was like, okay, we've peaked. It's like
Yeah.
we've peaked. Let's accept that. Now we need to do something else. No, but with Coco though, like yes, you will see a lot of those types of tropes that nowadays are kind of tiring, but it is one of the better
Yeah,
examples of that.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
honestly, so with Coco, even during that decade, it was one of the rare original Pixar movies, but like it really shows the beauty of original animated films. And with Coco, yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of their stronger pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do you have next to talk about?
My next up, on my okay, so we already covered Coco. Might as well go into another Pixar film. How about we go into The Incredibles? Now,
Mm-hmm.
I know that as recent, everybody's been hyping up about Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and Across the Spider-Verse. And I mean, yeah, they definitely do deserve a lot of a lot of the praise, and definitely deserves to have a title as one of the best. superhero films out there. But let's not forget about the Incredibles. That it is still a superhero film and still one of the best superhero movies out there. Like still like manages to do better than a lot of what Marvel or DC would do, especially when discussing about the subject of family. And what really is admirable with The Incredibles is that like this isn't just a superhero flick, but it is an original superhero flick that fully creates its own lore and tries to reinvent the definition of what is a superhero. Where like this isn't just a place where superheroes are commonly found, but there is kind of like this political aspect with these superheroes and how nowadays they're not as viewed highly, almost like I wouldn't say entirely, but almost X-Men style, where the public is against superheroes, and what these supers have to do is try to blend in with ordinary people to ensure that their superpowers are not as exposed, because well, they're not as welcome, because often their superhero antics are not as helpful as what they used to be. So from there we get a strong analysis of like how that life is with the Parr family, with Bob, Helen, and their kids, Dash, Violet, and Jack. And then you see Bob, who kind of got into a bit of a midlife crisis, where now he wants to be a superhero again, but then comes face to face with who I gotta say is so far the best Pixar villain, Syndrome. Like this toxic fan who so desperately wants to become his idol's partner, but after making it clear that he is rejected, like he now becomes his enemy. He wants to become the full-on nemesis to go and destroy Mr. Incredible and all other superheroes. But with this movie, though, like the animation, even when it was made back in 2004, nowadays, like maybe there's a bit of it that looks like a little bit dated, that you could tell it was from the 2000s. It still looks absolutely fantastic, and especially the action is highly engaging and a lot of fun. There's even just a little bit of comedy that does supply so many memorable lines, and even the characters are highly enjoyable as well. So honestly, like even though a lot of people admire The Incredibles as an animated feature, like it should be taken seriously as a superhero film. That honestly, like Marvel and DC nowadays, especially, they need to go and like look upon that film and try to learn, like, okay, what is it that they got right that they should go and like help their movies out in order to become better. And I mean, and let's be honest, I mean, even at like the current state of Marvel and DC, like they would even have to look upon how incredible, like they need to look upon how Marvel 2 does it in order to try to improve themselves. That's how bad things are going with those.
One of my favorite things about The Incredibles is that it's one of the only pictures for families that I can think of that really accurately portrays marriage in like, or in that conflict is okay, that people that are in love with each other have conflict, and that's part of being married, and they, they are able to work it out and everything's okay. But like I just love the overall depiction of the family, but especially Helen and Bob. And also I definitely connect, as somebody who was in cubicle hell for years, that experience of being in just one of those soul-sucking jobs is just like the worst. And so I connect with that beginning part of it. And whenever you're trying to kind of be somebody that you're not, that is just so toxic. It's so horrible. And that's basically what he's doing. He's trying to deny who he is, right? And live this other life. And so of course he's vulnerable to syndrome and everything. So yeah, it's a really wonderful movie. And I think also one of the best parts, and I think that superhero movies in general could learn from this, is when she tells them they will kill you. They won't think about it. These are not nice people. This is not a game. And whereas I think that sometimes in superhero movies in general, we're kind of scared of stakes. Like it's just sort of a joke. Oh, nobody really dies in Marvel or DC unless you're the Waynes or Uncle Ben. Those are the only people allowed to actually die in a superhero movie. Everybody else, everybody else is going to come back in one force or another. And which, whatever. That's superhero movies. That's comic books. That's the way it is. But like, I think that they could learn from having like real recognizable stakes, and to in a movie for families, for her to say like they will kill you. This is not a joke.
Mhm.
It I think that's a very effective scene.
Yeah. Also, to slightly go back into Syndrome, like this is also one of the rare movies that actually does comment and be straightforward about toxic fans or toxic
Yeah,
fandoms in general. That it
right.
highlights that sometimes people's obsession and that they would put in way too high of expectation. They would put in like expectations that are just way too high, and sometimes that obsession can turn into some dangerous toxicity that they don't,
Yeah,
when they're so focused on like their own goals and their own like when they believe that they can become better than just a fan and don't understand the concept of boundaries. Like sometimes they would take things way far to the point where they would just become so destructive. I'll even mention like I've had a few fans that like they're just on Syndrome, that they don't comprehend boundaries, and that yeah, they're like very toxic individuals. Like even when I would try to be respectful and try like try to make it clear like okay, that's nice, but like like let's just have like a fan creator relationship and stuff like that. Sometimes like they don't comprehend and they still take
yeah,
things too far.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think any creator, I mean, you're obviously more successful than me, but I think it's an interesting experience. I that you think, I don't know, it's very surreal. It's very surreal when
Mm-hmm.
something like that happens. But yeah, when you get like a certain degree of idol worshiping, even like at the cons and stuff, like I've taken a few pictures with people. It's like no judgment, whatever, but like I do sometimes it makes me like a little uncomfortable with the way that it's like they're just actors. They're just working, they're doing their job. Like, I don't know. It just is like just keep everything in a little bit of perspective, you
Yeah,
know?
it's pretty much yeah. Like there's a good commentary in The Incredibles of like don't let idol worshiping get the
Yeah,
best of you,
yeah,
because like it will like no matter like who it is, it's ruin your life no matter
yeah,
what.
yeah. Well, my next one, it's kind of a flip of that in a weird way. My next one is actually Mamoru Hosada's film Belle, which is one of the more
Ah,
like positive, uplifting depictions of internet life I think I've ever seen. And I think this was especially comforting coming out of the 2020 lockdowns and everything, because one, and it was a very cool experience. So I went to Animation is Film Festival in 2021, and I saw Momoro Hosada was there. They screened Belle. It was the premiere, and it was at the Grauman Chinese Theater. This is a great festival. If you ever get a chance, it is really well done, and they have great panels and really good selections. Highly recommend, highly, highly. Anyway, and so he was there, and he introduced it and said he'd always loved Beauty and the Beast, and this was his sort of homage to it. And it was probably the first time, or one of the first times since the pandemic, that I was in a completely full theater, every seat taken, everyone invested, everyone, just eating up every single thing that was happening. So that was like the ideal way to see this movie, first of all. And it was incredible.
mhm.
And I just absolutely love everything about this movie. I love the music, I love the animation, absolutely gorgeous. And the whole story that basically like our connections that we make on this, crazy thing of the internet actually can matter, and that we can help people in their lives, and that she ends up basically saving these boys from this abusive father, and being able to reach out and help them, and that's like meaningful, and it's just like was such a optimistic, especially in a world where we'd kind of been living online for, a couple of years, practically hadn't been spent much time with friends. That was like just the message that I needed. And I just think it's an absolutely like really interesting, creative, beautiful, wonderful film. So
Yes, it's a very fascinating modern take on internet, like not just internet culture, but it's like a good modern take on Beauty and the Beast, because like we all know the story, like especially like we know the Disney movie especially, and like it's one of those tales that if told right you can make something amazing out of it.
yeah.
And Belle is it's definitely one of them, especially when not only do you have that classic Beauty and the Beast story, but being updated where you have like a full on internet setting. But on top of that, you have that extra layer of commentary in regards to internet culture and discussing about some of the positive effects and some of the good things that you can actually do with the internet. Now, I know nowadays, like considering how the internet and social media can be extremely cynical nowadays, especially with how some of these CEOs like they're currently running it, and it just feels like it's a lot more destructive than it is anything helpful. But it is a nice reminder that there are some good ways that you can actually use the internet. There are some positives that can actually help out where no pun intended, that can help connect with people, that the impact that you can make on the internet can also affect people in real life, and those effects can also be positive as well. So it's not, so Belle is not just another Beauty and the Beast story. It's a Beauty and the Beast story for the modern age. It's for it, it's basically for people who go on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, this is David from the Piecing It Together podcast, a podcast about movies and the movies that inspire them. For over 4 years each week, a guest and I take a look at a new movie through the lens of what other movies we think were either an influence or connect in some other way. It's a fun, unique way to discuss films that leads to a great list of other movies to check out that either explore the same themes and ideas or maybe utilize similar filmmaking techniques. Including special episodes in our side series that twist the format, we've done over 200 episodes, so there's bound to be one on a film you've been thinking about and want to dig deeper into. So check us out on all the major podcasting apps and at piecingpod.com.
Yep. So what do you have next?
My next up, I'll go with, let's see here. I might as well go with another Pixar film. I got Ratatouille on my list. Now, funny enough, with Ratatouille, it did take me some time to actually go and watch the feature. But then when I finally did get to see it, now I understood what the hype really is all about. Because much like what we've just talked about before, like with The Wind Rises, this is another one about another movie about passion, about your dreams. And this one really does emphasize that, where they do talk about the famous quote that anyone can cook, or that a great cook can come from anywhere, which is the case with Remy, who has this passion for cooking, that he wants to go and explore what his taste buds can go and experience in order to make some fantastic food. Which is why he ended up suddenly finding himself in his idol's restaurant, which hasn't been going well ever since the idol himself, Chef Gusteau, passed away, and then has the tag team with I guess the underdog character, Chef what was his name? Linguini, with Linguini. I was almost gonna say Chef Louis. No, that's the Little Mermaid. But no, like then you see like this, and then it kind of becomes like this buddy movie where you see the two working together in order, in order to lift things up at Chef Gusteau's, and for Remy to find a way to apply himself into the world of cooking without actually applying himself, considering that rats are not allowed in the kitchen. But at the same time, this is a movie that it has so much to say, and it is something that can be very inspiring as well. And this is actually one of the few features that actually does present a critic as a
Yeah.
character here, or in a way as a villain, which I will admit, as a critic myself, the depiction that they did with Anton actually is pretty, it's actually pretty accurate, where sometimes critics can actually see themselves as high and mighty, as judge who can determine if things are actually going like if it's actually worthwhile or if it's actually a piece of crap. I do get what they're trying to do with presenting a more antagonistic critic, and yeah, like a lot of it
Yeah.
is very accurate, just letting you know.
Well, and then
But
Egon is redeemed though because he becomes the champion. And in his big speech, when he says that occasionally that a critic has to fight for the new, and I think that that's where it separates the men from the boys, as they might say, so in critics is do you just kind of go along with the crowd, or do you fight for the new? The new need friends, and so that's where it becomes sort of a rallying cry for good criticism, I think.
yeah, no, that review at the end of the film is like, of course, it's one of the standout moments, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely beautiful. That does talk, and it does talk a lot in terms of like the perspective of a critic that, yeah, it's fun to go and like bash a piece of garbage, like to bash some crap, but at the same time, you want to look for things that you want to actually enjoy, that you want to see. You also actually do want to see some good stuff. And while
Yeah.
it is, you do have your comfort stuff, but you want to explore something that can be completely different and completely new from something that you would like totally not expect, and want to try to look for that. And that's what he ended up getting with Remy cooking up an actually pretty solid dish with that ratatouille that he had made.
Right.
Honestly, with Ratatouille, like you wouldn't expect much, but it is like one of the most inspiring Pixar films that they have done. Like not only a lot of great characters, but also a lot of very memorable moments and a lot of powerful quotes as well. Even the scene with Remy and his dad, when his dad wants to do one more big shot to change Remy's mind back with the rats, and shows
Mm-hmm.
him the extermination shop. But then Remy would tell him no, and telling him the importance of change. That in order for life to continue and stuff like that, you have to have change, or that change is nature.
Yeah. 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 My only thing with that movie is I sometimes wish that they made the rats like a little less realistic, like a little more cartoony. They're a little it's like, oh, gross. For me sometimes. But it's very sweet. I do enjoy it.
Well, I
All
mean,
right.
keep in mind, like with, well, I just want to quickly say, with Ratatouille, I mean, it is still a pretty stylized film, but at the same time, it is still from the 2000s. It is
Yeah.
still from the era where computer animation still wants to be as realistic as possible,
Yeah.
especially with their textures.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
they
kind
did
of wish
too
it
good
was
of a
more
job
like,
there.
like Secret of Nim or something like that, where it's like, yeah, they're rats, but they look like cartoons. But my next one to talk about is from the Disney Renaissance. It's Mulan. I
Ah,
really love Mulan. I think that it does such a good job of balancing a character's journey, a hero's journey, with enough humor to keep it fun. I love the songs. I think they are so catchy. I like that it kind of tries to take on gender roles and what being a woman means, what being a man means, what fighting for your country, what that means, masculinity, femininity, all that stuff. I like that it kind of approaches it and tries to talk about it, at least as much as you could in the 90s with Disney. I like her just sort of journey as a character. that she starts out as like trying to be something that she's not, and that's a journey that usually works for me and that I like. And but then she takes this role. That haircutting scene is really great when she assumes the role. And yeah, it's I just think it's really wonderful. So
Yeah, I could see why Mulan is like one of the major favorites in terms of Disney movies. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my full-on favorite among the Disney Renaissance, but still like I still really like it, and it's still
yeah.
a very solid
Well,
picture. I mean, it's basically yeah.
no, I had three from the Renaissance on my list, the main list. So this would be my fourth favorite of the Renaissance.
Yeah, I think I do have some. Do I have? Okay, yeah, I have. Oh, okay. I just have two on my list on the Disney one. I have The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. No, but I mean, like a lot of them are
Yeah.
definitely fantastic, and Mulan, yeah, it is one of them. I mean, debatably, it's done a lot of the same tropes that you would find during that era, but they still managed to do so very well. Like you got a lot of the comedic sidekicks, especially Mushu being the
Yeah.
real standout ones. But they also do have some others that are also enjoyable. Like this might be a bit of a hot take, but for me, I actually like Mushu is great and all, but I actually prefer Ping, uh, Ping, Shenpo, and
Oh yeah, they're fun.
what's the third
Yeah.
one? Oh crap, I
The
forgot.
her army
Ling,
buddies. Yeah.
Yao, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ling Yao
They're
and
fun.
Shenpo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're definitely great, and also like the songs. Definitely, they're definitely motivating, a lot of fun,
Yeah.
especially like with Reflection or I'll Make a
Yeah.
Man Out of You. Like
Mhm.
the kind that really hit more in terms of the emotions, to be a lot more fun, to be a lot more inspiring.
Yeah.
Like what it wants to say, it makes it very clear. But also what you say about the challenges of gender norms. Yeah, this is like back then it was rare. Like they were slowly but surely encouraging more feminism in movies and in TV shows. But with Mulan, it was the first major leap for Disney to actually do so and to actually like try to fight against like the common masculine role and try to present that with the story of Mulan, like try to
Yeah.
challenge how like encouraging the mentality that women can indeed do anything that what can be considered male roles, including being a warrior to the point that you can save China.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
is
but it's not in like a cliched way of like girl power you sometimes see now. Like she has to figure out her own ways of doing things. And like the men are like they are kind of silly at times, and they smell and whatever, but like but they and they even at one point are in drag, the guys, at certain point. So it just kind of has fun with gender roles, I think, in a way that's very entertaining, and without being like, I just feel like now well, I mean, we saw it with the remake, which was terrible. So
the remake
yeah.
had barely anything to offer. I don't think
Yeah,
it's the worst of the Disney live action remakes, but like I
they have to
it
make
feels
her
like
into
you get nothing
superhero.
out of it.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, what do you
but
have next?
well, actually, one more quick thing I just want to say about Mulan is that one thing, like what I think actually really does work out is technically her motivation is not about gender at all. Like she's doing it in
Yeah,
order to save her family. She wants to save her father that
it's true.
a son to go out, but like he is in no shape whatsoever to go to war. So I think that plays a major role where doesn't like it's not too in your face in terms of the subject of gender where like yeah like it's obviously there and like the obstacles pretty clear of what Mulan has to face, but it's not, it's like for her it's not all about gender, like she's not
Yeah,
doing it to prove
right.
her womanhood or anything like
Yeah,
that.
that's
But
true. That's true.
anyways, for me, next up, I might as well go with my Disney animated movie that I've put it on the list, and I'm just going to give you a warning now. I know I've already pissed off many people, or at least some people, by saying that this is a good movie, but I don't care. This is still very solid. I am including Frozen. Yes, I do
Yeah.
think it is a very solid film, a very
Yes.
wonderful picture, especially with the fact that this is something that Disney has spent literally decades in trying to do. This is
Yeah.
something that Disney tried again and again and again, but like it just didn't seem like it would work out to try to adapt Hans Christian Andersen's story and turn that to an animated feature, or at least an animated feature worthy of the Disney name. And it wasn't until Robert and Chris Anderson Lopez wrote Let It Go, and then everything full on changed. And this one actually did work out. And you know, the funny thing is, I know there's a lot of people out there that they would go in debate of like, oh, which is better, Tangled or Frozen? But for me, I'm like, girls, you're both beautiful. There's no need to fight. But yeah, with Frozen though, like that, like this is not, of course, like many other Disney adaptations, this is not an accurate telling of the Hans Christian Andersen story. But this one actually did manage to work very well to make it about sisterhood, to be about these two sisters that you could tell that they want to be together, but because of circumstances, they're unable to, which in this case is with Elsa's ice powers. And when it comes to Elsa, I feel like the way that she is crafted can debatably be on the same levels as Beast from Beauty and the Beast, where she's a tragic figure where she is given these ice powers, but they're a lot more of a detriment than they are helpful, and that she has a lot of fear that, you know, with these powers, that if she's not too careful, she would end up hurting those that she loves, which is why she would go and ultimately seclude herself by building her own ice tower when she ran away after being called the Queen of Arendelle. And from there, you see this whole journey that with her other sister, with her sister Anna, that she still has a lot of love for Elsa, despite the fact that for a long time she just didn't really understand. So she would go through that journey in order to go and actually reconnect with her and to let her know that everything is okay. While at the same time, she's that because of the royalty status that they do have, that she is a bit of a recluse and a clueless of the world that is outside, which is why you got Hans that's added into the picture. That like he would seem like almost like Gaston. He would seem like your typical prince, but like he has his own nefarious agenda of what he wants to do. And again, this is another hot take, but I feel like with Hans, like he is honestly one of the better plot twist villains. I'm sorry, like that scene when you see like he almost
Yeah.
kisses her and then just says like, "Oh Anna, if only someone loved you." Like, that is one of the big it's hard not to look at it and just go like, "F you, man! What the hell?" But yeah, honestly, with a lot of it, and like of course you still have a lot of that Disney spirit, comical sidekick with Olaf, and not to mention a lot like the musical numbers are fantastic and very memorable as well. Not just with Let It Go, but with other songs like For the First Time in Forever or In Summer. Like you get a, you know, you definitely have a very solid soundtrack with this. And I'll just say, I completely understand if there are some resentment of Frozen because like it's literally everywhere, and sometimes with that overexposure, sometimes it can come with some hate where like you can't stand seeing Frozen being everywhere. But like when you look at like when you take a step back from it and look at where everything came from with the original picture, like the popularity that it got and like being one of the biggest Disney animated features out there, I feel like it is somewhat justified because of the great work that has been put in with this Frozen movie.
Yeah, I love Frozen. I also think that as a musical theater fan, this was the first time that we got like a true musical theater belt score. Because yes, you had the Ashman Menken ones in the 90s, but those were more mixed in sound. I mean, having Idina Menzel really belted is just something that we hadn't quite had in a Disney film, and I really love that. I love like the little scenes, like when Anna goes up to Elsa in the castle and they do that variation on First Time in Forever. Arendelles in deep, 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 deep snow, and they're singing, talking to each other. Like that's very musical theater kind of based. And I love that, and the way that they kind of build and build and build and build and off of each other, I think is great. I love that. I mean, it has its flaws. I think the songs are a little too top heavy. I wish we got like one or two more in the bottom part of the film. And but I love Olaf as a character. I know a lot of people, oh, he's so annoying. I don't agree. I think that Olaf, for a side character, actually has like a real purpose to the plot. He's seen the entire journey of Elsa. He knows. And so when he says to Anna that I think I know, so there's some things that are worth melting for. He's like a needed part of the story to actually teach her that at that moment. And but maybe not melting now, but he convinces, you really don't know what love is, do you? And I, the ending I think is beautiful. I love it. I think it's great. It's great songs, a great message. Again, another one about trying to pretend to be something that you're not, and how toxic that is. So, what do you think? Where are you on Frozen 2? Did you think that was good?
I'm honestly in the camp that it's not as good, but I would say like very slightly less. I still think it is a solid picture. There's just a few flaws about it that like it just puts it one step lower, where it's still like fantastic, but I'd still take the first movie. Especially like when you have especially when you have Kristoff, that he's pretty much doing the same thing that Bernard was doing in The Rescue Down Under.
But his song is so good. I love his song.
No, that song. Oh my god, that song is amazing. No joke. Joke. Long story short, I remember I went the second time to watch it with my friends, and just seeing one of my friends' reaction to that song, because I remember there was at one point he just looked at me like, "If those reindeers start to singing, I swear," and just like I was just anticipating. I was like, "All right, let's see what the chorus comes in. Let's see what happens."
Oh man, I like practically stood up and cheered when that song at first. I was like, oh my gosh, they did it. Those Lopez's, I love them so much. They gave me my 80s power ballad. It was so good.
With the singing reindeer.
Yes. Well, my next one is and maybe an obscure anime, but you can watch it on Netflix, I believe, or at least for a while you could. It's called In This Corner of the World. And this is directed by Suno Katabuchi. And I actually got to interview him when this came out for Rotoscopers. So I'll put a link in the description if y'all want to check that out. But this is a movie that won't be for everybody. Some people will think it's a little boring, but I love it. It's a real slice of life of this woman who is in an arranged marriage in 1943, and she is sent off to Hiroshima, Japan, which is not a good place to be in 1943. And and it's really a slice of life of her experiences, and obviously becomes very traumatic as the story goes forward. But it takes time to do like little things. Like there were special ways that they made rice in Japan in the 40s to make, like, they would puff it up so that like one little thing of rice could like feed like a lot of people. And so the way they would cook it was this special step, and he goes through and you see like every single process in this special puffing up of the rice, and it just takes time for little things like that, which I really appreciated and I thought was lovely. And I really felt like I got to know this girl and her heart and who she was, and the relationship between her and the arranged marriage husband is actually really tender and sweet as it evolves. And obviously then there's like real trauma with with the bomb and what happens and all the aftermath, and you kind of know as you're watching, like it sort of builds tension, even with these simple things like making rice, but like this is coming, what's coming. And so it's a beautiful movie and simple. It's kind of a sketchy style. It's similar to something like Takahata would have made. And it feels like Grave of the Fireflies in that vein style. So yeah, it's a lovely little movie, and I definitely recommend people check it out.
I haven't checked it out, but when you were talking, I was a little bit confused, and I was thinking, it was like, wait, is this the movie that like it starts out cute and pleasant, and then it gets horrifically traumatizing when the explodes? But then I realized, no, that's not the other one. No, I was thinking of Barefoot Jen. But
Oh yeah.
but yeah, this one again, I haven't actually seen it, but I have definitely heard a lot of great things about it. That it doesn't, it's not afraid to get into the horrors of what happened during Hiroshima, but like it is still very heartfelt at the same time.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
What do you have next?
Well, considering that not too long ago, as we're recording this, it was Easter. So let's go into the one that a lot of people would consider to be an Easter movie, but then after watching it, they would seriously regret it. Yes, I am talking about Watership Down.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
yeah, like you see cute little bunnies, but then those bunnies ain't freaking cute anymore.
Yes.
But with Watership Down, it actually looks into the story of real life rabbits. Like what do bunnies go in their everyday life? And like normally when you think of cartoon bunnies, you'll think of like smart Alex like Bugs Bunny, or you would think like cute little creatures like Thumper Bambi. This is not the case, however. They present them as legitimate animals that they have, they have to go and survive. But at the same time, though, we do, they actually do build a bit of their culture as well. That do see like a little bit of additional world building of the kind of lives that rabbits would have to go and live, and a bit of religion that they would put into it as well. Like there's kind of a bit of a subtle commentary in terms of religion, especially when you have like a prominent figure like like I think it's Alafaran, where they kind of praise as like their bunny god or their great rabbit.
Oh yeah.
But from there, but it's pretty much a commentary about how rabbits are trying to survive in a world that is pretty much dominated by people, and that things can get very complicated, and that they can also get very nasty as well. Like one scene that is memorably horrific is when one of the characters get entangled by the trap, and you see him like full, like not just struggling, but like the dude was at the cusp of death. Like he was full on bleeding by being strangled by the wire. It was like there are times when it can get horrific, and not to mention that there are also different gangs that they would be separated in their own groups, and that if they're not part of one group, then the other or the outsiders need to go and be taken down.
Yeah.
Especially when things can get pretty freaky when you bring in general war into this. But still, though, it is a pretty frightening feature, but still one that is very engaging, thought-provoking, and pretty powerful as well. So it is like maybe not the most pleasant experience, but it is definitely a powerful experience that is effective and extremely well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Watership Down. That was at one point it was on my top 50. It's not on this version of the top 50, but I do love it. It's bold, it's interesting, it's different, it's got something to say. I love the novel as well. That's one of the few books I read in high school for school that I actually liked. Most of the time, schools know how to beat a life out of a book, right? But that one I read in school and I really liked it. And so yeah, it would be high up there for because I'm not that big of a fantasy person. But it would be pretty high up there for me as far as fantasy stories.
Well, I wouldn't say this is fantasy per se. Like there's a lot more that's more
well, there's like
fantastical than this.
lore and like a lot of times stuff loses me with that kind of thing, like mythology and lore and a whole like building a whole world and I would say it's you know what say what would you classify it in?
Well, I would say nature documentary for sure. Like it's somewhere in between. Like maybe it is somewhere in between nature documentary and fantasy, where like I would say almost nonfiction, where like you do like yeah, there is that element of fiction where you do get talking rabbits, but like most of it, I would say 80% or even 90% is rooted in reality. And then, of course,
Mm,
like, yeah, you'll have a few fantastical elements. Like, you'll have that ending where you'll get a floating head of a rabbit, like Alifaran showing up as a floating head, like, all right, dude,
yeah,
come on, let's go. You're joining me. Come on, andale.
yeah. Maybe
But
that's why I like it more than some other stuff. Is it's a little more grounded. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. It's very good. Well, next up for me is my last Pixar on this list. It's Finding Nemo. Is
ah,
on this list. I love the water. I love the ocean. I don't know why I live in a landlocked state sometimes because I miss it so much. But just the visuals alone and just all of the water, that is just, I absolutely love that. But then I love that, and I think it's amazing that they were able to tell two dual narratives because you have everything going on in the tank and Nemo's journey. And he's got his weak fin. He's been sort of taught to think he can't do anything from his dad's neurosis. And then you have this friend again. I love stories of friendship. This friendship story between Dory and Merlin, and and how that grows through the course of the film. And when Dory realizes that she can actually remember things because of Merlin and their the experience, and that's just it's so sweet and also just so funny. I love Darla, absolutely hilarious. This is such a good villain, and so yeah, I think it's great.
that is a movie that definitely is heartfelt, but also a lot of fun. And again, just like with Coco, back then this was really testing the technology that Pixar
Yeah,
had, especially with the fact that you're making a full-on computer animated feature set in the ocean, which
yeah,
that can come with its own massive challenges.
yeah,
But with Finding Nemo, they were still able to do it uh, absolutely beautifully. And again, like similarly to The Incredibles, maybe its age does show a little bit. And with Finding Dory, yeah, they definitely improved upon it. But still, like even looking back at it today, the animation is just absolutely gorgeous, especially
yeah.
with the way that they present the coral reefs and all the different colors on the fish. It's
The
definitely a
jellyfish.
yeah,
Oh,
or the jellyfish, the EC, like a lot of those scenes are absolutely beautiful to look at. And
yeah,
not only that, but it's also very heartfelt to see the relationship between the father and the son with Marlin and with Nemo, where
yeah,
yeah, like Marlin is a bit too overprotective because of like the traumatic experience with the Barracuda at the beginning. But then at the same time, like he gradually learns to go and be, to learn to actually connect with Nemo in a more natural way and be less cautious per se, especially being separated with him for so long and developing how he interacts with others, especially with Dory. And then, of course, like you got plenty of other colorful characters, both literally and figuratively, especially the I remember when I was a kid, when I was a kid in the 2000s, Finding Nemo was one of those movies that, like, you can, like, I pop in and I'll enjoy it no matter how many times
Yeah.
that I can go and watch it. It's a fun-filled journey, a lot of comedic moments, great characters, and of course, you got a lot of heart as well.
Yeah, and we just reviewed, me and Stanford just reviewed it for Talking Disney, so you also check that out. But yeah, it's really holds up well. Well, what do you have next?
My next up is actually going to be Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes.
Now I know in a previous video on this little series, I did talk about the Lego Batman movie, but I am convinced that Batman: Mask of the Phantasm is honestly one of the best Batman movies. Period. Like this is
Yeah.
honestly comparable to something like The Dark Knight or the 1989 Tim Burton movie. Like it is that amazing. Because like the Batman animated series has been highly praised as one of the best animated shows that's been creative, where it does know a very good balance of being accurate to the comics and at the same time be a bit more family friendly, like in terms of its approach, like not go too like overtly violent or go into like too many adult themes. But with that Batman, like it knows how to really go deep into its character development and to convey some powerful messages as well. And like everything that worked with that Batman animated series, what made it so legendary, like it is brought onto this movie as well. And not to mention that with this version, you actually see a very rare side of Batman that it brings him back to its roots, where he's not really a superhero, but more of a detective, where you kind of see this crime drama going on, or this, it has this film noir aspect where Batman is trying to solve the murders related to the Phantasm, that you got this hooded figure going around taking down these mafia bosses one by one. But then at the same time, you learn more about you kind of see this new backstory for Bruce Wayne, where like yeah, we know like the whole thing with his princess, that, but this time around, this is like much later, like when he is this billionaire philanthropist, where we see him falling in love with someone, where he falls in love with a woman, and that he was very close to actually having a married life without fully knowing about her backstory, or like like her connections with some of the other characters in the movie, which ultimately results in the whole thing to not really work out. And it kind of reinvents the backstory of Batman, where Batman was pretty much the legit reason, or like the breakup that he had with her, or that when he realized that he cannot have that married life, or he won't, he's not going to have a life with her, that's what made him become Batman. That's what ultimately made him go into that decision. So it adds that layer of tragedy to who Batman is, or who the character, or like how the character ultimately came to be. And then, of course, you got the Joker, who enters into the scene, because you cannot really bat movie without having one of the iconic villains enter into it. And with this, like when you add Joker into, like, maybe it is the one flaw with this movie, that maybe the Joker's inclusion, especially to the backstory or how he enters into the whole narrative of this, it's like not the best integrated, but when Joker does appear, like, oh my god, his presence is known and it's fantastic. Not to mention the best performance that you would get from the Joker, not just from Mark Hamill, but in general, the way that he plays up this character as a, as like the comedic gangster that is also very deadly at the same time. like they managed to pull that off beautifully. So honestly, with Batman of the Phantasm, like honestly, it's one of those that, much like what we talked about with The Incredibles, it's another superhero movie that really, it's very much one of the best that you can find in the genre.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Batman animated series is one of the finest programs to ever air on television. It would be in my favorites ever. Absolutely amazing. And I think this is the best Batman movie ever made. In my opinion. And then one of my problems often with Batman movies, they can be fun. I enjoy them. But one of my problems sometimes with them is that the villains are so much more entertaining and interesting than Bruce Wayne is ever allowed to be. Like he's usually pretty flat and pretty bland and not interesting. And in that sense, I usually prefer Superman over Batman because I think Superman is asked to like struggle with more things about like what he is willing to sacrifice for to help these alien people that he doesn't even, he's not even from here, and so he's asked that. I feel like most of, I mean, there's bad Superman movies too, but I don't know. I just, as a character, I think he's asked to struggle a little bit more than like Bruce Wayne, who's just like a rich guy. But in this one, he is actually like really forced. You spend a lot of time with Bruce, and because he has to sacrifice something with Andrea Beaumont, he has to really think about his life and like what he wants. And there's that great scene where he's talking to Alfred. He says, "I'm walking a line between good and evil, and I could fall either way." And he says something along those lines. And it's such a great scene, and you can see Alfred's just so worried and concerned about this, that, and so it's one where I feel like we get to know Bruce as a human, uh, the best of any Batman aside from the animated series. And I agree with everything else you said. I love the Shirley Walker score; is one of the best of all time. Absolutely beautiful music, and just the shading, the coloring, the way it uses light and color and shadow, and is beautiful. It's, I think, very if I was doing an underrated, I think I would. The people who love it, but as far as the general population, I think it's still kind of underappreciated. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you got? What's your next one?
My
I
next
know
one.
that. Oh, sorry. No, like I was about to say, like I know you also have Mask of the Phantasm on your list. So
yes, so I have that in number 2, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So number 3 is where I have another maybe the most underrated animated film ever. Is Cats Don't Dance. Is Cats Don't Dance. I absolutely, I'm a musical theater girl, so this really like satisfies that itch for me of true, like it feels like you're watching Singing in the Rain in animated form. This young man, this cat, he comes to Hollywood to make it, and all the different obstacles that he faces, and the great song and dance sequences. The songs are so catchy. It's so well done, and I love it. I think it's so entertaining, and I wish that it got more love.
Well, honestly, maybe you just haven't been on the internet lately, but Cats Don't Dance is actually one of those that slowly but surely has been getting more and more popularity.
Good.
Like a lot, like it's at the point where many people are saying that it's underrated, where it feels like now it's debatable it's underrated because a lot of people are kind of saying the same thing. It's almost like what they've done with the Iron Giant.
Or like
So
Hunchback. Yeah.
Or Hunchback,
yeah,
or many others.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. But it's on Tubi. If people haven't seen it, you can watch it for free.
Yes, and also, it's funny how you mentioned that. Like it is, like it definitely is a throwback to like the golden era of Hollywood with many of these classic movie musicals like Singing in the Rain. It definitely did help, considering that Gene Kelly was actually a choreographer for the dance numbers of those. But
cool.
yeah, with Cats, so with Cats Don't Dance, it definitely is one that it highlights a lot of the glamour and a lot of the love of what people enjoy in the in that classic era of Hollywood that unfortunately nowadays feels like it's kind of gone. And you know, like, I just realized something, considering that, like, we're talking about a movie that, like, that has a cast that's mainly like all animals and stuff like that. This was Sing before Sing.
Yeah,
I
no, it
would even
really
say, like,
was.
this did much better, and this even did better than Sing, because there is that extra layer that it's, you know, that it wants to be, you know, that brings back that spirit of classic Hollywood, and like even like that inspiring story of the guy who wants, you know, that wants to make it big in entertainment, that wants to be big in movies and stuff like that. So like you have that entertainer aspect,
Yeah.
almost like the Muppet movie, in a way, that it's a journey where you got this one guy that that believes in the dream, and he teams up with a ragtag crew that also believes in the dream. So yeah, from there it's a lot of fun. It's definitely another great non-Disney animated musical out there, especially oh my god, the villain though.
Yeah, I love
The
her
villain
song
is just
though. Big and loud.
oh
It's
my,
so
yeah,
good.
Darla Dimple, is that what she is?
I think so, yeah.
But no, definitely a really fun villain.
Yeah.
You know, just how insane that she can be, and like a little too over herself with the fame that she has. So,
Yeah.
well, a lot of great things that can be found in Cats Don't
Yeah.
Dance.
Yeah. Well, so how many do you have left?
I
Because I know
only,
we have
I actually only have one.
yeah,
You?
same with me. Okay, good. All right. Well,
Okay.
what's your last one to talk about?
Well, the last one, considering that I know we've debated about this before in terms of like mixing genres and stuff, and that technically in both of our lists we would have like those hybrids, like Marcel the Shell with shoes on. And in that regard, if hybrids are allowed, then we have to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah.
speaking of of the golden age of Hollywood, and making a movie that is a tribute to that, we need to go and include the ultimate tribute to the golden era of cartoons,
Yeah.
especially a movie that nowadays that can be considered one of a kind, especially featuring some of the great blend of hand drawn animation with live action. And this is all thanks to the combination, the collaboration between between the filmmaking eye and like the technical well, how can I put this? The technical eye, or the filmmaking eye, of Robert Zemeckis, and the mastery of that, or the animation mastery of Richard Williams. Like, Richard Williams has proven
Yeah.
himself to be an absolute legend in animation, especially when he would keep on like making his craft better and better and better, and always pushing himself to be better, especially for his lost passion project, The Thief and the Cobbler. So from there, like the skills that he has learned from that, he would also apply it to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in order to make 2D actually look like 3D, and the effect actually managed to work so beautifully. But then also you got that detective story that is going on, in you see too, like you see like the like these murders and these crimes that are continuously happening, and some people think that it's Roger Rabbit that has done it, but then again it kind of reinvents the genre, or like not even reinvent it. It's like it kind of parodies the film noir genre, but like managed to perfect it in a way that it kind of reinvents it, to become one of the best examples out there, because like you do still have like those tropes, with the down on their luck detective with Eddie Valiant, and then you got the sexy femme fatale with Jessica Rabbit and stuff like that.
Noir.
But
Yeah.
like, yes, but the way that they would go and have this be massively cartoon themed is a lot of fun. But then you have the world building, one of the most admirable out there, with the way that they were able to go and bring in many different cartoon characters all at once, a variety of different studios. Like, you don't just get the Disney ones, you also get the Looney Tunes, you get MGM, you get Universal. So like you got a world where like you can legitimately see characters like Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Woody Woodpecker, Droopy. Like you see all of them coming together, working in this one big fantasized Hollywood. And it adds into the fun of it as well, where like you could just enjoy it by just watching, like just keeping an eye out for all the different references to all the different cartoons that would go and show up. Like if you could see, like, rather it be like the super popular ones, like either Mickey or Bugs, especially see them together at the same time while falling with Eddie, or you would see like even some of the lesser known ones that would appear in like old 1930 cartoons and stuff like that, like Peter Pig, or you would get the Reluctant Dragon, or stuff like that. So there is that additional fun, but it's not just about like spotting all the references. It's also enjoying a great picture as well, seeing this great detective story slowly unfurling, that makes it additionally engaging as well. So overall, this is just a wonderful picture and an absolute miracle of a movie where presents this cartoon world where you see all your favorite characters actually coming together, but at the same time you get this great film that has wonderful animation blend in with the live action. You get this suspenseful and engaging story about who actually did go and kill Marvin Acme, and you got wonderful, memorable characters as well that are very effective in what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. They weren't just sort of resting on the gimmick, that they were bringing these worlds together. They actually crafted a compelling, entertaining story around it. And it's really entertaining. It's very good. Yeah, I agree. Well, my number one, it would have been on my top 10 Disney list, but that list, I had so many princess movies that I just felt like, okay, I'm gonna break it up a little bit because I think I already had four, so that would make five from Disney. Almost all of my choices would have been princess movies, which, hey, I am who I am. But anyway, so I kept this one off, but I do absolutely love and adore it. It's Sleeping Beauty. And I love this movie. I loved it ever since I was a little girl. I loved watching it, and I love the three fairies and their silliness, the camp, that you get in Fauna making that cake, and it's ridiculous, but it's so cute and fun, and I love the pettiness of Maleficent, that she doesn't get invited to the christening, so she curses the baby to die. It's like such a good villain, and the animation absolutely incredible. The layers to each of the frames is incredible. You really feel that they took a decade to make it in every shot. The beautiful music, Once Upon a Dream, absolutely gorgeous. I love Philip. I think he's awesome. I think he's underrated as a Disney prince. I love that scene when he's in the dungeon and Maleficent, so much for true love, and he's like, it's so good. But Flora is actually the hero of the movie. It's underrepresented, that she's the one who gives Philip the sword of truth, and she's the one that puts everybody to sleep, and she's the one that actually stabs the dragon at the end with the sword of truth that she made. And so I think that's kind of fun that she's kind of the little hero of the actual story when you break it down. And
oh yeah,
and I mean, it of course it's in that era where Disney loved having characters be drunk in almost every movie. There is drunk characters. You got it here with the Kings and their song and everything.
No, the lute player especially.
Yeah, they get pretty sloshed. So yeah, it's and I go back and forth. Am I Team Pink or Team Blue? I because it's Flora's movie, I want to say I'm Team Pink. And so maybe I'll go there, but She does look good in the blue as well.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, like when we did the Disney one, because
Yeah.
I did include it on my list. And well, just to quickly go and repeat it, yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful feature. It went through a very fascinating history where, when it was initially released, like it pretty much got the same reception, the same like basically the same results as what Wish got right now. But then over time, like as the decades go by, like it becomes more and more respected, and now is being viewed, and now it is being viewed as one of Disney's greatest masterpieces, and rightfully so. I mean, like you got a great like. It is like a full-on unapologetic fairy tale story, but like it did add a little bit of twist, because technically the three fairies are actually the main characters in this. That it's more their story of trying to the Princess Aurora, trying to make sure that, to keep her safe from harm's way from like the evils of Maleficent. And they got, and got to make sure that they can help set everything right to make sure that Maleficent doesn't screw over the kingdom and take over and just destroy everything. But like, and as we've mentioned before, like you say, Prince Philip is a very underrated character. I think Aurora is a very underrated character as well, especially with the beautiful performance from Mary
Yeah.
Costa. The beautiful design from Mark Davis, and also like a bit of a tragic character as well, like debatably the most traumatized of the Disney princesses. So honestly, a great character and very underappreciated. Like I love her so much, and honestly, I'll say now I'm more on Team Blue, but that's because like one of my favorite colors is blue. But other than that, though, the animation is absolutely stunning. One of the best looking Disney animated films before that one of the best looking animated Disney films ever, especially with the way that it blends in with the classic Disney style, but also make it more stylized to be more reminiscent to medieval art as well. But also the emotions can be very strong, especially with the romance during the Once Upon a Dream sequence. The intent, like it can get very intense, especially when Prince Philip tries to escape the wrath of Maleficent, and like the battle between the Maleficent dragon and Prince Philip. You get a little bit of comedy as well from either the kings or sometimes with the antics of the three good fairies. The characters themselves as well, they're very charismatic. Their personalities are very strong. So definitely a very solid animated feature all around.
Well, there we go. We did it. Oh my gosh.
Yay!
We talked about our top 50. Unbelievable. I thank you so much for doing this. This was so much fun for me. And I know it was a big time ask for you. And I just really am grateful. Thank you so much.
Hey, no, you're welcome. I mean, like, it's not every day that we go and get to talk about our favorite animated movies and just talk about like what we enjoy about them so much. And especially like to go back into our subject about the internet and how like it can be very cynical, like just to have a moment to talk about what we love about movies and what we enjoy about them. It's always a blast. It's always great.
Yeah. Well, if people want to follow you, your content, how do they do that?
Well, the main thing that you can go and find me is on my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, where I would do a lot of reviews of animated movies and some extras as well, and including some history videos. In fact, as you're watching this, I have just concluded Animation Look Back the Muppet. So yeah, like there's a lot of bittersweetness where I'm not only done with that series that spent nearly 2 years on, but also like finishing this as well. Then there is also like my other social media stuff. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Blue Sky, and on my Patreon. That you could find me as Animat or Matt Brune, aka Animat. And I also got my podcast as well that you can go and listen to, Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, where I would go and talk about some of the latest animation news and put my commentary on it, or even watch some trailers, just have discussions about all the craziness that's going on in our world. I do that on my Twitch channel, Animat Live. So yeah, that's pretty much all where you can find me across the internet.
Nice. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you follow me over at Hallmarkies Podcast. Got lots of fun stuff over there. And I'll put a link to the playlist. So if you want to check out all of our episodes that we've done and my previous top 50 episodes, then you should definitely check out that playlist. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. Also have the Patreon group and merch store. You get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts in the merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
See you later, dudes.